Hello, Christina. Could you please introduce yourself and let us know who you are?
I'm a chemistry professor. I'm deputy head, and I'm a full professor at Memorial University. Welcome to my lab. So I share this lab with five other professors, but I have quite a bit of space here, and I help design the layout of this space.
Where did you do your undergraduate studies?
I went to Dalhousie to well, I started in a master's program, and I was working at a slowpoke reactor doing neutron activation analysis.
So there was a slowpoke reactor in downtown Halifax?
Well, it was on the campus of Dalhousie. So it wasn't quite downtown, but it was certainly in the south end and one of the wealthiest and more populous areas of the city. So yes, there was a nuclear reactor there.
Can you explain in layman's terms what a slowpoke reactor is, and is there any radioactive waste produced?
A slowpoke reactor is a small reactor that uses fissionable uranium, which is the type that's used in nuclear weapons. And when you remove the control rods, neutrons are produced, and you can shoot your samples into that core, and the neutrons get absorbed by the sample, and it makes certain elements radioactive. So the lifetime of a reactor was supposed to be about 10 years, and that reactor lasted 30 years. And as it's aging, the uranium is undergoing decay and becoming quite radioactive. So there's lots of byproducts that are present aside from the uranium. And so they actually have to remove the core and then take it and bury it like in the Canadian Shield. So we're analytical chemists, and we are interested in developing new devices that will help do analytical chemistry better.
So you're an analytical environmental chemist now?
Environmental analytical. So I'm an analytical chemist first, and the applications that I choose to study and develop methods for are related to environmental samples, and I do some work on biological samples like human blood, urine, gross stuff like that.
That seems like a bit of a U-turn from your grad studies.
Well, I think I kind of alluded to it that the reactor takes a lot of money just to do the decommissioning, and it takes a lot of money to build. And the Slowpoke program, which was a Canadian invention, actually, the Slowpoke reactor, really was killed by espionage. So there was industrial espionage that went on at U of T, and some postdoc essentially stole the plans. And now there are Chinese slowpokes, so there's no more slowpoke program. And to do that kind of work, you absolutely have to have a reactor, and there's only a handful of nuclear reactors left in Canada that do this kind of work. So you kind of have to shift gears.
Do you feel the work you do now is more important than what you did as a grad student?
So my work as a graduate student was on this material called extractable organohalogens. That sounds very complicated, but essentially lots of molecules have carbon, like chlorine, iodine, or bromine substituents, and they're associated with toxicity. So you hear about PFAS, for example, that's used in Teflon. That's a fluorinated compound. That sort of work was really interesting because it was about trying to figure out where those organohalogens were coming from, and I was doing analysis on biological samples. But I think the work I'm doing now is more impactful.
I just have one more question. Can you please tell us about the whale?
So the whale was one of two blue whales that washed up on the shores of Newfoundland about 8 years ago, I guess. And one is in the Royal Ontario Museum, and one is here. This one was actually processed by the ROM, and it's been paid for by a benefactor of the university. And it was actually, this building was designed with that whale as a feature. So it's pretty cool.
And I've been involved in the designing of this building since about 2014, although the ultimate look of the building was decided upon by a vote of faculty and administrators at the university.